Hey there, guys. What's going on? This is the next installment in a series I started called First Impressions, where I bring my friends on and we tell our first impression story on how we first met and how we've grown since then. Today, I got possibly one of my best friends on here, Spencer Nelson. Are you gonna not gonna introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Spencer. As you can see, hello Jesus. And yes, I'm probably his best friend.
Ouch! I can feel the love.
No, I'm his bestest friend, is what I mean.
Yeah.
Like that.
Practically my brother. So today I wanted to do this with you because you're literally one of the first people I met in youth. One of the
Yeah.
first people I met.
Mm-hmm.
And like I was saying before with Dill, I came here in like mid 2013, and I didn't really know that many people. And I think you guys were going to because I unofficially came to youth once, and I barely spoke to you. But I think the first time I can actually remember actually talking to you was you guys were going to Winter Jam or something.
Yeah, we were going to Winter Jam. We were in the van on
Yeah,
the way to Winter Jam, 2013.
I think yeah. Yeah.
2013,
Yeah.
yeah. So pretty much what happened, and John was probably gonna say it, but I'll say it. Yeah. Pretty much what happened was we were in the van, and we had just talked about we were both huge nerds, and we were both huge nerds, and honestly, and at first me and John didn't talk. I guess because we really didn't know what you're like and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and then we just started talking about comics and stuff like that, and just nerdy stuff, and like it hit off and stuff like that, and we just started talking, hanging out more and stuff like that afterwards. Eventually, I started hanging out at his house, and eventually I spent the night, and then hanging out with all that kind of stuff, and then we proceeded to hang out more and more
Yeah.
and more and stuff like that.
And I can feel like because from my point of view, when I first started, like when I like going back to the Winter Jam trip, I wasn't originally gonna be going at the time, but Zach, I think Zach had like a few bucks on him or something like that because I was very resistant to go to youth, very resistant because I was a stubborn headed dude back then because there's for lack of a better term, and Zach had just been talking to me, and he said, "Hey, we're getting ready to go to Winter Jam. Would you like to come with us?" And I go, "Well, what's Winter Jam?" And he said, "Well, it's kind of like a concert, and we just have fun and everything else." And I said, "I don't really have the money to go." And he said, "No, it's okay because I think you guys had someone duck out at the last minute or something."
I can't remember.
I don't remember exactly what it was, but I just remember him saying that you guys had an extra ticket or something, and he said, "Would you like to come with us?" And I go, "Sure, yeah, that'd be great." So I quickly went and packed and got some whatever I could, and I went in the back, and I was in my head I was thinking like, okay, maybe I'll have the back to myself. That way I can keep to myself and not talk to anyone. But sure enough, this guy was in the back, and I'm like,
Because I had the same thought.
yeah, and I was like,
Um,
oh,
I
no.
sat in the back in the van a lot because I could spread out and I could just hang out in the back of the van. And then he sat with me and stuff like that. He took my spot.
And I just remember thinking as I headed back there, I'm like, oh no, I can't be with myself. But I was already too far back, and I was like, all right. And I think our first even conversation was just very awkward. It was just hi, John, Spencer, and then we didn't talk for about a mile. And then from there, we started talking a bit about nerd stuff because from my first look on him, I thought, okay, here's a straight up jock who doesn't care about anything else but football and everything else. So I was like, well, I have in common with this guy.
He was partially right. He was partially right because though I loved comic books and stuff like that, I was just like huge into football then and stuff like that. I was playing football and I would go to youth group with my football every night, and pretty much that's the whole thing I did was that's what I did every single night I went to the youth group was just played football. I loved youth group, but I was a huge comic book guy.
Yeah.
And I talked to Jonathan at first too, and I didn't really know what Jonathan was like. Because the video is about first impressions, but Frank, I really didn't have a first impression of Jonathan until I started talking to him. He was quiet, and he was quiet, and he was reserved and stuff like that. So I really didn't know what he was like at first until we started talking, and then I guess talking about comic books. I guess it didn't quite tell me what he was like yet. I found out what his interests were and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I didn't really find out exactly what he was like and stuff like that. But that was like where, honestly, the nerd stuff is where we became friends.
Oh yeah. So so talking about like nerd stuff was like half of it.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until like a few more times me coming to youth that we started hanging out. And then came the most awkward moment in my estimation of our friendship. When we were, I think it was, Kayla took us for a youth night to an ice cream parlor for service. And we were eating there, and around this time I had been just saying, like, yeah, Spencer's my friend, but we don't really hang out that much outside of church about that time. And literally, we were saying goodbye to each other, and then 5 seconds later, Spencer comes up to me and says, "Hey, dude, I have an idea. How about I spend the night at your house?" And I was like, because I had never had anybody actually straight up ask me, "Hey, can I spend the night at your house?" Because I was just like, this is new. I'm not sure. Not sure what to say. So I called my mom, and of course, they said sure, but this is a bit odd for even you. I'm like, I know, I'm not used to it. So I think even our first night, just talking together, we ended up like talking like about interests, about our actual our personality, why we were so enclosed, and yeah, it was just. For me, I was just kind of weirded out because I never had a friend straight up ask me, "Hey, can I spend the night?" and actually want to hang out with me more outside of something.
No, it was though actually. Honestly, yeah. So for something like the first night and stuff like that, because when I was younger, it was like I want to hang out with somebody, so I would just ask them, "Hey, you want to spend the night?" and stuff like that. And that's actually honestly spending the night with somebody it's a good way to just realize what somebody's like outside of the environment you only know them in.
Right.
I only knew Jonathan in church. He was only my friend in church.
Yeah.
So I could figure out, and he lived literally across.
We lived at the church.
He lived at the church. He lived at the parsonage, which was connected to the church. So he was right there, and I never actually hung out with him outside of church. And so I hung out with him. And that night we were just nerding out and stuff like that. And I met his brother Keith, who then eventually became like my brother and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I know he was in the video before or after. I don't know the order in which you post these, but Dylan was as well. And then we met Dylan, and he's right. He's right there. Honestly, yeah. So and then all three of us guys became a tight group, and honestly, I've been at Jonathan's house more times than I can count.
I think you've been here about 15 times.
Way more than 15.
No, I'm saying like 15 times as like just one of my best friends. And then from then on it went more and more, and I lost count from when I started like saying like, oh yeah, he's like my brother and everything.
Because I remember
lost count.
I remember there was one period when I got back from boot camp, and so it was one period when I got back from boot camp that I was just in like a weird phase and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I just needed people to hang out with and stuff like that to kind of get my mind off of things. I had come over to his house like several times each week.
Oh yeah.
I would spend the night at his house like 3 times in a row.
And I had no problem with it.
And it was honestly because it's like a retreat. It was like a retreat, and stuff like that. And honestly, I love hanging out with Jonathan. I don't come over as often as I probably used to, mainly because I work and stuff now and stuff like that, and stuff like that. But honestly, but also, I guess we're still best friends and brothers. But our relationship has changed.
Oh, yeah.
But not in a negative way. It's become, I guess, we still talk about nerdy stuff, and like we were just nerding about Endgame.
Oh, yeah. That was
a little bit ago after that last video. He has an Infinity Gauntlet back there, and I put it on. And we were talking about Endgame, and I won't say any spoilers.
Yeah.
In case any of you haven't seen Endgame yet, it's awesome.
Oh yeah, it's a really good movie.
But yeah, we were nerding out, so we still nerd out and we still talk about comic books and stuff like that. But we don't. I guess we. It used to be where we just talk about comic books and we didn't have like deep personal conversations with each other where like we couldn't share things when we first met and stuff like that.
Right.
But then it became a point where, man, I was struggling with something, and I remember that all the time in the church van, me, John, and Keith, and Dylan, we found out a lot about each other.
Oh, yeah.
I would say a lot more than I need to say on camera, or something that I shouldn't say on camera.
Because here's the thing about the church van.
John will get demonetized.
Well, I'm already demonetized.
More.
But still. But here was the thing about the church van. It was like this weird escape for us, where we could literally talk about deep personal stuff. And I remember, like, I'm a very closed off guy. I don't really like talking about too much personal stuff. But as we've grown, I found that we have grown a lot more since, like, going back way back then to how we are now. Things have definitely like taken a turn from being awkward and antisocial to being awkward and antisocial, but we still talk to each other.
Okay, I'm not as awkward as antisocial as I used to be. Because it was funny because Jonathan in his last video that Dylan, we kind of broke Dylan out of his shell.
Oh yeah.
But honestly, though we were antisocial for the majority, when it came to our youth group, we were very social.
Oh yeah.
We were like, so pretty much you had these kids coming in to the youth group, and a lot of these kids didn't want to talk. A lot of these kids didn't want to share. They didn't know us. They were just like us when we started going there.
Right. They
didn't know who we were. They didn't know what kind of people we were. They didn't know if they told us something that we would go and tell some other people, They didn't know. We could have been wolves, We could have been like... I mean like in sense of gossip, you know? If they told us something, confided us something to us, we could have gone off and tell somebody else. So we helped break kids out of their shells. The youth group was weird. It was weird, when I was in the youth group, it was weird and stuff like that. It got really weird, it got really funny, and these kids were immediately introduced to the weird.
Yeah. And
some of them were a little uncomfortable at first, but eventually they immediately got used to it.
And I think really when I first really started opening myself up to having no shame, it was with hanging out with you because because how many nerd conversations we had. I think around the same time, I think I talked about with Dill in my last challenge video, the Newly Friend game, about how much I love Doctor Who. And I remember that was one thing that me and Spencer ended up bonding over because I told him about it, and then became straight up Whovians.
I never watched Doctor Who. I think I may have watched. I know I watched a few episodes, but I never got into it. But it wasn't so. I watching it until Jonathan was watching it. Well, John was like, "You should watch Doctor Who," and so I was just like, "All right, I'm not gonna enjoy it. I'm not gonna enjoy it, but whatever. I'll watch it."
Get down the road.
So pretty much it was like hooked because I had never paid attention to it, and now me and Jonathan were watching it together, we were going through theories, and we were making up stories and skits, and we were. See, I was an energetic teenager, and I had a lot of imagination, and creativity we both did and stuff like that, and pretty much we could let it out.
Oh yeah.
You know, we would go over into the church, into the sanctuary, and we would just have a whole full blown time.
Oh yeah.
You know, and we would spend there for hours. I mean, probably 4 or 5 hours, and we wouldn't even know until his mom come over and be like, "Do you know what time it is?" And we're like, "No, what time is it?" And she's like, "It's like 4 in the morning."
and sometimes it'll be almost like 5 sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I would be shocked because I think that's how much of a friendship we've gotten to at this point, where we're so comfortable with each other that we literally embrace each other's ideas, and we can actually see where things should go.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like that about us, because now, like, it's changed a little bit nowadays, like here in 2019, because yeah, you've been working a lot, you haven't been coming over as much, but we still have that friendship to where if we really do need to talk to each other, or if we want to nerd out, we can call each other, we can text,
Mm-hmm.
or even I can ask, hey, do you guys want to come over and we can just talk,
Or we
even
can
go
play PS4 together and just talk over the headset.
Yeah.
Like we do sometimes.
Yeah.
One time, me and Jonathan, we were playing 2 separate games, and we weren't actually playing with each other.
We were just talking.
You know. But no, yeah, and so that's honestly, there's a lot more.
Oh yeah, there's
a lot more.
There's too much history to go.
And there's a lot of history that involves me and Jonathan. I think really what I can boil down to it is the first impression is I didn't know what kind of person Jonathan was, but I think I guess that was what made it cool.
Yeah.
Was because I found out what kind of person he was, not by him just telling me what kind of person he was, because you can tell anybody you're this person. But I saw who he was because of the way he acted and what his interests were and stuff like that, you know. And then he found out what kind of person I was.
Oh, yeah.
Like he said, I was a bit of a jock, you know, and I was a bit of conceited and stuff like that, you know. And
I wouldn't use that word, but
well, I'm gonna use that word. And so, but no, and you know, he found out what kind of person I was and stuff, you know. And so, yeah, I mean, that was my first impression of Jonathan.
That was pretty much our first impression going from mid 2013 to 2019.
Yeah.
And onward.
Mm-hmm.
This is a bit of a weird series, guys. But I'm going to try getting more people on to kind of tell these stories, because I honestly think these stories are pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So that wraps it up for this video. I want to thank Spencer for coming on. And be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and let me know if you actually want to see more of Spencer. If you do, yeah, just go down in the comments. And until next time, guys, I'll see you later.